Let's get ready to story!
All right, so many pockets. All right, Who's it gonna be? It's not there. It's not there. Oh, there's the reader. Storyteller, yes, you're right. Nanny goat. Castellani.
Drawl. Kim Giombetti. Giombetti? Oh, you're right. Sorry, I've created a mess on stage already.
I look like I'm drinking soda. It was H&R soda, cola, some even up. I don't know what I'm talking about tonight, because that's my way. I grew up at the knee of Tom Munley here, and that's his way to point out everybody in the room who he knows. And I bet a lot of you in the room right now are very nervous, because I have a lot of dirt on a lot of you. But since that bright light is blinding me, some of you in the back are going to survive this. I think what I want to talk about is going to the Franklin School, Martin J. Loftus, which, if you're truly an uptown girl, that's where you went to school. And if you went to the Franklin Martin J. Loftus School, you survived the Loftus sisters. And anytime my children complain to me about a teacher that they have that's mean to them, I like to talk about Margaret Loftus and how in the 5th grade, she would start every morning by calling us ignoramuses for the first 45 minutes of every day. And if you remember the Martin J. Loftus School, we had those little school desks like you see on Little House on the Prairie. And the front one had the seat that there was like no desk in the front, and the back one had the desk with no seat. And she would put you in line, and she would sit there, and one girl from the patch, Janice knows what I'm talking about here, gave her a music box. And that music box bought Margaret Loftus's love for the whole year. So Margaret Loftus would never yell at the little girl from the patch. I'll tell you later if anybody wants to know who it was. And she would go on and on and on if you were mean to the little girl from the patch and call us ignoramuses, stoop. I can't even, when you're in the 5th grade and you belong, you know, you grew up in Jessup, you really don't know what the word ignoramus meant. It wasn't like in the dialogue of the household. You know, you would get called a lot of things at home, but ignoramus wasn't one of them. So you would really know, like, this was a big word. And it was in the year of probably, let me think, 5th grade, I was 10, so it was like 1971. You had those coats with the big hoods that would push up your hair all day, if you were a girl. So every girl had a knot the size of, like, you know, a rat's nest in the back of her head, and that your mother tried to get out with the dog brush when you went home at night, and you could, you know, and Margaret Loftus would make us sit in these little rows and call us every name in the book. And the other great thing about going to the Martin Loftus School was Peter Reap. Nowadays, if a kid came home and told their parents that they were hanging out with the janitor, he would have been arrested. Tom Mully sentenced him big time, because in the middle of the day, you'd go over to Peter Reap's house. He lived across the street. You'd be hanging out with him and his sister. He'd be making you lunch. He was the janitor. And then you'd be walking home, and Lonty would get hold of you and give you the nugs as you're crossing Ward Street, trying to get over by Labranti. And Bonnie Looney knows what I'm saying. And so we went to this little school that was, and I saw the Lepres were here before. And let me tell you something. In 1971 in Jessup, there were the queens of the playground. And that was Lynette Lepre, Tony Funduti, Jeannie Lepre, Petra Faber would come over and scare the shit out of you once in a while. But they were the queens of the playground, and they ran like the summer program at the Martin J. Loftus School. And they were like, everybody, oh my God, Jeannie Lepre and Lynette Lepre were here. And you just sit there and you bring out your wax paper. And on the playground of the Martin J. Loftus School, there was the big slide and the small slide. And the teeter-totters were bolted down like a bench so nobody could use them, because I'm sure there was a horrific accident that happened sometime before I was born. But you would get out your wax paper and you would go up and down the slides. They were 300,000 degrees. And you would burn yourself like flesh would be peeling off the backs of your legs after you slid down those slides. There were 2 swings, a couple baby swings, and a 3,000 degree slide that you would sit crosswise and see how many kids you could stack up the slides. So when I decided, when poor Debbie Looney called me and said, you have to talk about this, there was a million things to talk about in Jessup. But they're all such little stories that you just like going to the Jessup pool, and God knows who peed in that all day long. The Bertha family thing took a bath in it every day, I'm not really sure. And sorry, Mark, you know I love you. But they had to drain it every night, and they used to give swimming lessons in the pool, Red Cross. The water was this deep. And you would have like brush burns because it was a cement bottom, and you'd be trying to move in the deepest part, which, as a kid you thought was like so deep. You could sit on the bottom and it would barely cover the top of your head. And it had about 65 to 75,000 kids in it a day peeing in the pool. So I try to tell my children this when they are kind of complaining about God knows what's going on in their life, that they can't walk from my house in Peckville, which I just see in the program. I was deported at one point, and I now have to live in Peckville. But from going to there to walk to the stadium, it's like, half a good block. They can't do it, I have to give them a ride there. When we used to have to walk to catechism every Tuesday, like holding hands, like little, walking down the street, going down to St. Mary's 2 by 2, because nobody wasn't Catholic. So everybody in the class was Catholic. So you got out early on a Tuesday afternoon and walked arm in arm down to St. Mary's. Now, if you were from uptown Jessup and you had to stop at St. James, you were one of those kids. Because everybody else went all the way down to St. Mary's. We kind of didn't, those St. James kids. And St. Michael's, they went to Holy Ghost. They ended their own school. We didn't even know who those kids were until about the 9th grade, and they came out of the patch. Like that zombie movie, WWZ, they would come out of the patch. But Tom Monley, here's a story. Tom Monley lived across the street when I was a kid, and this was in his bachelor days. He and JoJo, that was another story, lived across the street. Everyone knows. And all the old men used to hang out in front of my grandmother's house. So of course, as kids, we would hang out there too, listening to all the old men, and slide down the brick slide. If everybody knows Pietro's, and it had like an archway, we would slide down it. And just watching the Munley boys come in and out of that house all day, and it was like every 3 minutes there was 400,000 people going in and out, and they lived next door to that red brick building, which then, probably now, had 400,000 immigrants inside. So you didn't know. Every time they got off the boat, right into the red brick building. So it was always coming out the middle. All right, that's all I got.